Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of #Clockedin with me, your host, Jordan Edwards. I'm thrilled to have you tune in as we dive into the dynamic world of productivity, success, and stories of incredible individuals who've mastered the art of getting things done. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing at home, this podcast is the go-to source for inspiration and actionable tips to level up your productivity game. I'm on a mission to unravel the secrets of those who seem to effortlessly manage their time and achieve their goals. So if you're ready to clock in and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. We've got a lineup of amazing guests, industry experts, and thought leaders who will share their insights and strategies to help us crush your to-do list and make the most out of every moment. Get ready to get inspired, motivated, and equipped with the tools you need to supercharge your productivity. This is #Clockedin with Jordan Edwards. Let's dive in. Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a special guest here today. We have Ken Rusk. He's the author of the Blue Collar Cash, and he's also runs Rusk Industries. Ken, how are you doing today? And what's the obsession with blue collar? Aren't people on AI? Isn't that the new wave? Like, what's so cool about blue collar?
Well, thanks, Jordan. Thanks for having me. The thing about blue collar, and I've said this several times, and it seems to always get a big rise out of people when I say it, and that is that there's this misconception that white collar workers make more money than blue collar workers. Well, the only reason that is because nobody ever interviews blue collar workers and asks them that question. Because the best kept secret in the world is if you take out, and this is what they try to do with their studies, Jordan, they try to include all the part-time jobs in blue collar, like paper routes and people who babysit and people who work part-time jobs. If you take those out, which drag down the number, of course, right? Because they're low hour wages. If you talk about skilled trades, if you talk about, the things that we do to build America, it's amazing how much money is being made out there by blue collar people. But guess what? They just don't talk about it. So they don't walk around bragging like, oh, I went to Cornell and now I'm a mid-level manager at UPS or FedEx or whatever. I'm making blank, blank. They don't do that. They just live their life. They ride their jet skis behind their brand new pickup trucks and they have a blast. So
Yeah.
it's just a different kind of way of life, and just one that they just don't talk about.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I start to think about so much because I have a coaching group and one of the guys does landscaping and lawn work. A lot of the blue collar work, it just is very needed. Like you need the plumber, you need the AC guy, you need the landscaper, you need all these people. So it's not even that you're selling, but it's more you're doing this service, and most people never talk about it, like you're saying.
Well, yeah, there was, if you go way back, I mean, to my high school back in the early 80s, they took shop class out of high school, and some genius decided that was a good idea. And then they replaced those rooms with computers. Now I get we need to learn computers. I understand that. Fine. But why was it one for the other? Because what you did there is you eliminated the accidental discovery of how cool it was to be a carpenter, a plumber, a welder, an electrician, a baker, a hairdresser, owning your own business. You missed out on all that because you weren't exposed to it. So if you couple that with the fact that kids are sitting on the couch all day with these screens and not doing what we did, which is building tree forts, 30 feet off the ground in trees, and all the experience it took to do that, you couple those two things with the fact that colleges are really good at shaming parents into saying, if your kid doesn't come to us, he or she's going to be a loser. It's never been true. And
Yeah.
it's like the trifecta perfect storm against blue collar work. And here's the genius in that. Where supply is low because of the stigma, where demand is high, that's where the money goes, Jordan. So
Yeah.
now you got these people that are very quietly earning 150, 200, 250, 300,000 a year just by doing, blue collar jobs, and they're just not talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then when you start to see a lot of it, a lot of people, they'll do the work and then get into it and then start their own businesses. And now you have an asset there that you down the line can sell or have someone else run, or there's so many different ways to go about it. So, yeah.
Well, you have to remember that one of the reasons that I got into it, I mean, when I was 15 years old, my high school shared a fence with an industrial park. And we used to cut through that fence after school. There's a hole in the fence. We'd cut through there to go to the carry out at the corner and hang out. And I always remember seeing these construction companies and these, these blue collar companies, lots of equipment and stuff milling around, guys running around everywhere, lots of energy. And so one day I'm like, I'm going to get my first, I had several part-time jobs. I was going to get my first kind of full-time job. So at 15, I walked into this place. I knew someone that worked there and I said, hey, what do you guys do here? And they said, well, we dig ditches. And I said, well, okay, I'm wholly qualified to do that, right? So I signed up to dig ditches in the summertime and I worked in the office in the wintertime. And what that led to was knowing the front and the back half of the house, as they say, really well, how it operated. So when it came time for me to go to college, I wasn't sure I was even going to go. I mean, half of my friends didn't go. So, and that was normal. So they came to me and said, hey, we're opening up these franchises around the country. We want you to do that. So I cobbled together a suit, jumped in my car, drove to Columbus for 6 or 8 months, and then Cincinnati for 6 or 8 months, and then Pittsburgh, Chicago, opened up these companies, and then moved on to the next one. So I guess in a way that was my college, is learning how to start companies from scratch and copying the original, which is the one I started working at. So yeah, that what it gives you is it gives you an enormous sense of control. You control, and that's what people don't get, Jordan, about blue collar work. You control your input, which means you can control your output, and you control the quality of that output. You control your day, your time, your schedule. You control your financial gain. And you don't get that on the 15th floor in some cubicle selling medical supplies or whatever people do. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just not me. And so therein lies some of the secrets is that control you get from doing what you want to do, with your own hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're the one executing on this process. And one of the biggest things you brought up was around college, right? So from your generation, it was, oh, you go to college, you don't go to college, like whatever it is, it is. For mine, like I'm 28 years old. Majority of my friends, most people went to college. The ones who didn't feel like they're like, oh, do I fit in? Do I not? Whatever. No student loan debt. The ones who graduated with massive student loan debt, and we're talking like I think it's a real issue if you graduate with student loan debt that's more than your first year's salary. That's a major issue.
For sure.
Like in your course, one of the major topics that you touch on, and like something I'm really passionate about, is financial literacy. If you're that far behind the 8 ball, like you can't even get started.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. So I've been to parties where the parents are like, oh, well, my daughter is going to Ohio State, and my daughter's going to Michigan, or my son's going to this school, my son's going to that school. And the first question I always ask him is, are they going there for what? Yeah. And if they can answer the question, well, he's going to be a doctor, she's going to be an accountant, she's going to be an architect, he's going to be a financial guy, fine, because they have a specific job waiting for them when they're done with school. But many times you get these folks that'll just say, well, he doesn't really know yet what he wants to do, or she's kind of figuring that out. And then I started digging into it when I was writing the book. 40% of kids at this moment are going to college and they don't know why. That's insane. Another 25% of them, Jordan, they change their degree in the first 2 years. That's another waste of money and time.
Yeah.
The worst one, though, is only 1/3 of them ever use their degree ever in their lifetime.
Wow.
If that was a business, it would go out of business because you're selling a product that 2/3 of the people can't use. Yeah. So it is one of the most inefficient systems in the United States today, and yet it keeps getting funded, and people endow them with cash, and it's one of the most grossly inefficient systems there is. And you can make the argument, well, yeah, I'm going to go to college and he's going to be, or she's going to be, put out in the world and experiencing the world. Well, I can learn beer pong being a carpenter. Okay.
Yes.
I can learn how to stay up late and eat pizza at 3 a.m. anywhere. I don't need to pay to go to college to do that. And the sad part is what you just mentioned. So let's say you're going to send your kid to a school And people grossly underestimate how much it costs to go to school, because even at a regular school, you still got cars, fuel, you got time in the car, you've got all the transfers back and forth, you got books, you've got, all the
And
incidental expenditures that's way beyond just the tuition. So now you're talking 30, 40, sometimes 50,000 a year times 4 years. That's 200,000 on the negative side of your asset base. There are jobs right now where you can start in construction that pay $50,000, $75,000 a year to start. That's 200 or 300,000 on the positive side. If you don't know what you're doing, you might put your kid through a $400,000 swing from one to the other without even knowing it. And that sets them back a lot of years, a lot of time, and a lot of money. Okay. A lot of opportunity costs. So
100%.
all I'm asking is for parents to just think about that before they just herd their kid to college like all the rest of the cattle are trying to do.
Yeah, and it's like, whose responsibility is that? Is it that kid who's taking it on, or is it the parent afterward? Because I remember vividly having a conversation with my parents, and they're like, Jordan, you got two options here. One option, you go to the school that you think you really want, and that one's double the price, or you go to this one that is in our wheelhouse. You're still going to have some debt, but like it'll be manageable. And like them having that real conversation, they're like, that was hard. And I'm like, but the outsized return there is so much bigger than if you couldn't tell your kid no. Like,
Yeah.
there's no pride in saying, oh, I got my kid to go to school, but I didn't pay for any of the schooling. Then you're just setting your kid up for a very tough situation. Or you just say, hey, man, this is on you. You have to make this decision here. And how do you want to go about that? Like, this is going to be challenging if we look at this down the road.
There's a lot of sad stories out there. And one of them was one of the impetus. I had like 4 or 5 motivating factors to write this book. And one of them was this particular story. So I have a Range Rover, and it's like my fourth one I've had. And the first one I had was kind of a lemon. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
There's just things just kept going wrong with it. So I remember I had to take it in, and they had to rip the dashboard out, which means it was a couple of weeks worth of work. So they sent me down the street to get a rental car. So I rolled in this rental car place, and here comes this kid from behind the counter. He's got a 3-piece suit on, and each piece was from a different suit. And I get that. I'd been there. You know what I mean? He was trying to pull it off. And we started talking because I had to wait for my rental car quite a bit, like half an hour. And he said, I really wish that I could have just been a carpenter. That's really what I wanted to be. But my parents forced me to go to college. Now I have 88,000 in debt, and I'm working at this car rental place, knocking down 28.5 a year. When do I get to live my life? When do I get to start my life? I mean, that 88,000 could have been a down payment on a house. I mean, it could have been a lot of things. And so I felt really bad. I told him, I said, dude, get out of here and go become a carpenter. I mean, like right now, go do it as fast as you can, because he still had time. The people I feel really bad for are the ones that go to college, they get into these jobs that they hate, and they're on this vicious pay down my debt cycle. And no one ever really smartly guided them. They just kind of like herd the cattle, get in the truck, here we go. And I wrote an open letter to parents. It's on my website. I want parents to read it because it's a reality check. I said, listen, I get it. You birthed your child, you swallow, you cuddled your child, right? You swallowed them, you changed their diapers, you fed them, you put them to sleep, you protected them and sheltered them, and you taught them everything that you could teach them. And now you think the only way you can call yourself a successful parent is if they have an expensive degree on the wall that they got to borrow money for? Really? Who are you trying to impress? Yourself or your child? I mean, is it you walking around with this massive ego that my kid went to Vanderbilt, but now he's got 300,000 in debt and can't afford to live anywhere? That's not parenting. I would rather say that the goal would be, I want to raise my child as an independent, self-taught, problem-solving, knows how to work any kind of tool, knows financial literacy, sees opportunities and plans for them. I'd really teach them that because, Jordan, we all know that living well is the real gift here. It's the real target. It's the real prize, not some degree that you hang on your wall. I mean, literally no one's ever rolled up into my driveway, and I've been very successful and I've been very blessed and I'm wholly grateful. But no one's ever walked into my driveway and went, wow, look at this place. I mean, what degree do you have? No one's ever asked me that. They might say, how did you grind this life out? I'm happy to tell them that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such an oversold thing. And I think parents are like going, well, wow, how come no one told me that? Well, we're trying.
That's one of the things I love about you and like these ideas is that you're challenging society norms. Like, you know what I mean? We're challenging what is conventional. And then the biggest thing I think is an issue is when everyone's like, oh, no one told me. No one told me. It's the things that we don't know. And that's why I do this podcast. So it's, hey, you can get out there, do the work, learn about the different things and see how stuff is done. So where has challenging societal norms come to you? Because like for me, for example, it was back in 2018. I graduated 2018. I'm in my first year and I'm just like, what am I doing? Like I'm sitting there really thinking about it, and I start to like push the envelope a little bit, and I start thinking about like what can make a difference for me. So I started off with a 5-year vision for myself. Then I did a 1-year vision. Then I started talking about the 5 pillars for me for Edwards Consulting, which is mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships.
Yep.
And where are those today? And where do I actually want those to be? And what do I want that to look like? So where did all this come up for you? Because I know that there's so many of us who never have that wake up moment of, yeah, I want to do this. Instead, it's like, hey, you want a promotion? Yeah, I had a great year. I got a promotion. And it's like, no, that's not always the case.
Yeah, I think the difference between theoretical thinking and actual clear pathways is huge. Okay. There's a big difference between me saying to you, hey, Jordan, great to see you, man. Let's go do lunch sometime. You go, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. And then we walk away from each other and nothing ever happens. There's a big difference between that and me saying, hey, Jordan, what are you doing next Wednesday? Let's go to that Mexican place and we'll have a margarita and have lunch and just catch up. And you going, cool, next 12:30, I'm there, boom. And then we're done. That's the difference between theoretical thinking and pathway thinking. So what I train people to do is real simple. You have to first, no matter what you do for a living, you have to first answer the question, why? Like what do you hope to gain out of this potential occupation, whatever it is? Because if you don't have a real clear idea what you want your house to look like, your car to look like, your pet to look like, your vacation to look like, your spiritual moment to look like, your health moment to look like, your sports, your hobbies, if you don't have a real clear idea of what that looks like, and you can call it a vision board, that's fine. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. You're just going to float around until something happens to you instead of you happening to life, right? So I first teach that I need to know what your perfect nirvana would look like for you individually, because nobody knows the answer to that but you. No parent knows the answer to that. No teacher, no guidance counselor, and certainly no college advisor, no banker, nobody, no uncle or aunt. Nobody knows what the perfect life for you would be but you, right? So why are you relying on all these other people to try and define what that is for you? So start with that picture, visualize it like crazy, write it down, color it with crayons, make a poster board, make a Pinterest board, ask AI to do it, whatever, okay? Have an idea of exactly what you want your perfect life to look like, and then pick one of the many ways there are to go get there, because living that life is the ultimate prize, not what you do to get it.
Yes, yes. And it's so good. And the important thing is, because I was doing this with my group last night, actually, and we were coming up with 5 things that we'd want to have accomplished in our life. And some people are like, well, I want to accomplish like maybe bench this amount. Someone else is like, I want to buy a house. Someone else is like, I want this. So I add this in just because when the audience is doing this activity, don't think small on this. Be open-minded to what could be possible if you just put yourself out there. Because you start to hear so many people are like, yeah, I'd love to get like a new car. And it's like, that's the lifelong goal, a new car. And it's like, what kind of car? And they're like, well, I don't know, not something out of range. Like I want it to be very conservative, but no, like what would be out of range? Like, and you start
Right.
to ask questions of yourself because it's like, I don't think they make the cars so that no one can buy them. Like someone has to purchase them.
Yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't be in business. So my
Y-
point is think big. Don't
y-
limit yourself.
I always say small goal equals small thinking equals small mind equals small risk equals safety, right? Because to your point, the only reason we're talking right now is because over this Zoom thing, whatever that machine is because someone created the internet, someone created a computer, someone created a camera, someone created the phone. People thought way beyond, let's put a plow in the dirt and grow corn and just survive the winter. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
people are using the other side of their mind that we're not trained to use, and that's one of my biggest problems with high schools. They don't teach you how to visualize. They don't teach you how to forecast. They don't teach you how to anticipate. They don't teach you
Yeah.
how to forge crystal clear plans and pathways. Because a goal, which is the most overused word in the English language, a goal is nothing but a hope, a wish, or a dream without a pathway to it. And that's
Yes.
why I say what you're doing is so spot on, because if you allow people to set up these small goals, oh, I think I want to pay off my Visa bill and it's $1,100. Okay, let's get beyond that. Let's get like way beyond that. Okay. There's so much more to life than
Well,
that particular piece. And when I do that, I have them write them down on this. We have this giant black glass board. It's
that's
it's like one
awesome.
of those boards you see at a Mexican restaurant where they put the margarita special of the day on it.
Yeah.
And we put these neon markers up and they write their goals everywhere, and they have to have the exact start date, the exact thing they're after, chop it up into pieces like $50 a week for 2 years or whatever. The end date, it has to be signed, it has to be actionable by going to the payroll clerk and getting it going. These things all have to be up there, but they're up there for a reason so other people can see them, because
Yes.
sharing the goal is really important, really, really important. So, yeah, my whole world is about, can we forget so much about, patting ourselves on the back for exactly what we do for a living and focus a little more on what we do with what we do for a living? You know what I mean? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the big things that I think everyone might have missed there, because Ken just does it like he just did it so quickly, is he explained the action steps of said goal. Like, so say the goal was to go on a trip and it's $50 a month for the 2 years or whatever. He's like, yeah, go to your payroll and like let's set that up. So it goes into a separate account and then it starts compounding and like all these things so that when you look at that money, like, because the idea is once you do the activity, you don't have to think about it again. And like it's just working towards you. Like, so give you an example. What ended up happening was about probably a year ago this time, I was sitting there and I was talking with my fiance, and I'm like, I really want to go on like a trip for 6 weeks. She goes, a trip for 6 weeks? Like, how's that even possible? I'm like, I don't know, but it's like maybe we can go somewhere and we can work from there and we can do stuff and we can make this happen. I'm sure we can do it. And what we started doing, we started saving every month. Then we figured out a location. We bought an intro flight to Europe and then an exit flight. We didn't have anything inside of there. We started booking the stuff out. And that's just the process. And what
right.
people don't realize is like, was there anything special about this year? It was like, no, we literally just decided, hey, this would be awesome. Let's do it. And then you start working towards the plan. And it's like, well, what about this? What about this? You figure it out because you're going to have to build your life or you're just going to sit there and nothing will change. And that was such a big eye-opening thing for me. Like literally as soon as I came back, what do you know? Everyone's in the same position. I appreciate that. I appreciate the people being in the same position. That doesn't mean I have to be there with them. So
Well,
that's kind of, yeah,
exactly. I love what you did there, because in the book I have those steps, and the one of them is called "Set It and Forget It," so you don't have to think about it anymore. But I have a story in Blue Collar Cash where I can teach anyone how to build a skyscraper, and it's funny because I can teach your entire audience in 2 minutes how to build a skyscraper, and it's real simple. You just start asking questions. I never built a skyscraper before, but if I did, logically, I would probably have to find some land, right?
yeah,
Okay. I never built a skyscraper before in my life, but if I did, I'd probably have to find an architect to design this thing. I never
Yeah.
built a skyscraper before in my life, but if I did, I would have to get those plans and find a builder.
Yes.
Then I'd have to find materials, and then I'd have to find wiring and windows and door. If you keep asking yourself that same question over and over and over, pretty soon you're going to get to the landscaping, the curtains, the pencil drawers, and you're going to be done. And you can do anything that way. And that's what you did. You said, we've never taken a 6-week hiatus before, but if we did, it would kind of look like this. There's a begin, there's an end, there's a flight here, there's a flight home, and now we just fill in the middle. You can do that with anything in life. And here's the beautiful part about it. I bet you that you loved the process of planning it, and you even more love the process of anticipating its arrival. And I can tell you that when you have multiple goals on this vision board or whatever you want to call it, you have multiple anticipations going on at the same time. And whether one's 6 months or 6 years or anything in between, you now have this thing like you're in this current and you're just rolling through life, anticipating all these things that are coming to you. And it's just the absolute best way to live.
Yes. Yes. Because a lot of this stuff we're talking about here, it's said that like one of the biggest ways to overcome anyone who has like any mental issues like anxiety, depression is literally to have something to look forward to. So if you have something on the calendar, sometimes it's let's go to dinner here, let's do this activity, or it's something bigger where it's like, hey, I really want to do this. Why? I don't know, but we're going to put it on the calendar and it's going to end up happening at some point, and it's something you look forward to, not this, oh my God, I have to wait to see if I can get the time and do this. And it's like you really go and create the life you want, and it empowers people to build something that's really great for them. So, Ken, when did you realize all this, that life is very moldable and creatable? Like what was the wake up call for you?
Well, first off, I love the fact that you use the word look forward to, because if you think about it, where did that word even come from? Man, I really look forward to doing that. So what are you saying there? You're saying I am looking with my eyes way into the distance. Okay, I'm pointing now way into the distance if you can't see me on the screen. I'm looking forward to it. It's almost like when you go to an amusement park and you're on the way there and you come over the top of the hill and you start to see the Ferris wheel. You're looking forward to this thing coming your way, right? And at
Yes.
55 miles an hour, you're going to be there in 5 minutes, and oh, are you going to be happy? So the anticipation starts to build and build and build. Looking forward to a vacation is literally looking forward on the calendar 3 or 4 months or whatever you do to plan it out. And that's what people, I love it when people use those kind of words, because I'm like, let's break that down. Where did that even come from? I look forward to that. Well, you're actually looking forward, right? So where did this come from? When I was younger, we had 5 boys in a very small house in Amherst, Ohio. My father was making about $14,000 a year chopping lettuce in a produce department, okay, at a Kroger's. And he was working his way up trying to make things happen, but 5 boys is expensive, okay?
Of
And
course.
so he kept a roof over our head. We wore a little bit of hand-me-downs, and that was fine. We would go out to McDonald's maybe once a month if we were really good and really lucky and somehow we found some money. But if I wanted like a new aluminum baseball bat, okay, that was beyond what he could do back then.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to trade labor for that bat. I remember snow plowing driveways with a shovel and going, wait a minute, you're going to pay me $5 for me to shovel your driveway? That's unbelievable. I'm going to shovel like 100 driveways, right? So
Yeah.
I literally said, okay, well, if I'm making, let's say $3 an hour at the bakery where I was working, and that bat cost me $39, I'm going to work 13 hours. I'm going to have that bat, maybe 15 before tax, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I always traded labor for something. And I thought, well, okay, this works really well because I anticipated that bat. I went to the hardware store and looked through the window at it, and I'm like, oh man, I can't
Yeah.
wait to get that bat. So that anticipation drove me crazy. I loved it. Okay. And you become addicted to that type of anticipation, that type of mindset. And what happened, Jordan, was the things just got bigger. I wanted my first car, and then I wanted my first vacation, then I wanted my first house, then I wanted my first sports car, and then I wanted my third and fourth sports car, and then I wanted to go to Scotland and play golf, and then I wanted a boat. And it wasn't about the material things I was acquiring. It was about all the memories I was creating with those things. And I caution people on that because I don't just sit there and stare at my cars. I drive them all and I love it and I have a blast with them. So the point is, I began really early on learning the hard way that you had to trade your efforts for things that you wanted to come into your life. But the only way to do that is to start out with what those things actually were. I mean, I never once had $39 in my pocket and just walked into a hardware store and said, oh, by the way, I think I'll buy that bat today. I always started out with the thing and worked my way toward it. So
it's the intentionality.
Most
people, it's missing so much because you'll have people going to a restaurant. I want this. That's okay. Like that's one approach. Or it's, hey, I looked at the menu. I'm like super stoked about the steak.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about the steak for like 2 days because you get the enjoyment out of it. And most people are like, nope, just so fast. Like next drink, next this. And it's like, slow down, sit down for a moment and realize what you really want in life. Because you can get everything you want. You just have to plan it and make it happen. And there's so many times where we're just so hard on ourselves. And then you also have the counter to it, where you have half the people who are like, I got to be so financially fit on the one side that I can't invest in my memories and my experiences. And it's like, whoa, you're only a certain age for so long. You might want to go do that trip.
and you know, there's a section in the book that I talk about with creating balance in your life. And I think that's what you're getting at. I mean, you know, you have several buckets you need to fill in your life, you know, family, friends, health, you know, financial, fun, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you literally have to fill them evenly. And I know people say, oh, you know, but we got young kids, so we have to suffer until they're older. Baloney. You had those kids. They didn't have you. It was your choice. Find a way to go out on a date night, find a way to have fun, find a way to stay together because that's how you got together in the first place, or you won't be together very long. So I look at those things and I say, you just don't believe that you're in control. And you literally are in control, because I guarantee you, if I walked up to 5 people, I couldn't guess any one of their favorite colors. I probably couldn't. Is it blue, orange, red, brown, yellow? I don't know. Green.
Yeah.
Because only they know that. So why are they relying on other people, as I said earlier, to craft their life for them? I think, again, you either get busy happening to life or it's going to happen to you. And I like the first side of that much better.
Absolutely. And it's so important to realize. That's why, like, when you're I'm literally getting married later this year, and it's an exciting time. But we're sitting there and going like, okay, like when we have kids, we probably want to do this, and this. Like, I think the trip is cool. We might not be able to go all over Europe and do that. Maybe we'll have to go somewhere else and get a house for a month. That'd be fun too. Like you'd never lose that lust of what you're looking at building. So it's just so important that you keep continuing that. Now, I know you have the incredible book, but there's also a course. What's going on with that? How does that work? Because as you were explaining it to me, it was me sitting there going, wait a second. I do intro coaching sessions with people and I just ask them all the questions. The course format is basically you asking them the questions, and just hop in. So
I wrote this book and I didn't intend on writing a book. It just kind of happened. And there was several motivating factors to writing it, which was really cool. And believe it or not, it became a bestseller, and eternally grateful, wholly blessed, can't believe it to this day. But I was still, there were people, now you don't have this in your background, but you know, I've been on about 275 podcasts now in the last 18 months. And some people have a lot of books behind them in their podcast, you know, setup.
Yeah.
And I asked him, well, have you read all those? Yeah, I read most of them. And what'd you learn about that particular one? Well, that was a really good book. How did you apply that to your life? Well, I haven't, but it was a really good book, right? And I thought to myself, someone used this term the other day. It's not my term, but I liked it. Is your book self-help or is it shelf help, right? And I thought, well, that was kind of cute. So I decided I wanted this book to literally change people's lives like it changed mine. I didn't want people to read it and go, man, cool, Ken, great book, loved it. I'm not doing anything about it, but I loved it. So I built this course, and I've seen courses out there for $2,000, $3,000. No, that's not what this is about. This is about me returning my experiences to the people that are following up behind me as kind of a pay it forward thing. So my course is $179. You get a free $25 book with it. And it's 8 sessions that are each 45 minutes long. You can do it in 8 weeks or 8 days, whatever you want to do. But by the time you're done with that course, you will be thinking completely different about how your life is going forward. I guarantee you, I promise you, you would be doing that. That's why I'm not charging a lot of money for it, because I want people to take advantage of it. And when you do that, I donate the money to help the troops. I donate a portion of the money from the course so that troops when they're overseas can take these courses while they're there, so they don't come home lost. They come home with a direction. So just know that if you decide to take this course, you're going to find amazing results that you can use on day one. It's not theoretical. It's very practical, very easy, plug and play. And if you help yourself, you're going to be helping somebody else at the same time. So I hope people take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so important because, like we talked about in the beginning, people sit there and go to a college class and will pay $3,000 for a class that they don't even want to go to and sleep through half of it. This is literally 8 times 45 minutes. Let's call it like 6.5 hours, 6 hours of just really sitting there and like taking the information and applying it to your life. And if Ken's even slightly like the approach that he's done in his podcast where he just provides value, like if he does any of that, if you got any value from this, I would definitely consider checking this out, just because it is true. And I want you to let them know how'd you come up with the veterans? Because I remember you telling me the story in the pre-call, and it was just, yeah, it was powerful.
How did I come up with the veterans? Is that what you said?
But yeah, like the veteran success, like why target veterans? Why help veterans out?
Well, look, it's so many times, and you've even seen this in the movies where the guy goes out and he's a hero on the battlefield, and he's, maybe he's disarming bombs or whatever. And then he comes home and he wanders around the grocery store, or she wanders around the grocery store, and they're lost. Like, man, I was just this superhero, and now I'm like this just normal guy or gal. There's something very wrong with that, because that contributes to the 22 suicides we see every single day in this country to veterans. So in my opinion, we need to start with the veterans way before that. We need to start with them while they're serving. So if a guy wants to be a carpenter, I want him to start thinking about being a carpenter when he goes off to battle or wherever he goes for his service, while he or she is there. And then when they come home, I want them ready to go, boom, I'm going to start my carpentry business as soon as I get home. Because then they won't be wandering around the grocery store going, wow, I was a hero yesterday and now I'm lost. Okay. They'll be like, okay, I did my service. Now I'm going to take care of my family and kick ass for myself and build this beautiful business. Because only in the US can you build a business as easy as you can today with literally a phone and a pickup truck. You can do almost anything. So I wanted people to come out and say, I have hope, I have direction, I have motivation, I have goals, I have anticipation, and I can't wait to start my life, rather than, unfortunately, the opposite of that.
Yeah, and I want you guys to realize that even if you're not a veteran and you're just listening to this, think about the idea of what Ken said. He said the idea. Like, most of us want to sit there and have a plan, right? But we don't always have a plan because we're like, oh, I'll just go and I'll get a job afterwards. And it's like, okay, that's one direction or one possibility. Or it's the possibility of, hey, I'm going to start a business. And it's like, I'm going to give this a few years and we're going to see how it plays out. And I'm going to add 1 client and then 2 clients and 5 clients and 10. And I'm going to work on it. And we're going to build what could be great. And people don't give themselves enough potential. Like, we are all capable. You just have to do the work and start working on the right things. Because I think I was talking about this with my group yesterday. There's so much time where we focus on the small things instead of the big things. And there's a time and a place for both. But I find that a majority of adults are not focusing on the big picture enough. Like they're not spending an hour a week, 2 hours a week, let alone an hour a month or 2 hours a month, because they're just so focused on their day to day and they're just in the river. Like that planning that you're talking about, Ken, is the big picture. That's what people need to come up with the ideas to take the next steps. And it's just a lot of it's being missed.
Well, there's two things. So number one, almost every conversation that you can have ends up the same way. Whether it's I'm going to get a job, or I'm going to try and make some money, or I'm going to, interview, or job for what? So I can make money. Money for what? So I can pay my bills. Okay, your bills for what? Electric, apartment, my car. Okay. And then you're done with that. Now what? Like, when do you get to live? LIVE. When do you get to actually live, not maintain? Okay.
Yes.
And so every conversation ends up there. And that's what I try to push here. Because once you get beyond your bills, then what do you look like after that? Well, I never really thought about it exactly. That's what we need to focus on, because that's the true prize. And it's funny because I was talking with Tony Robbins' son, Jarek, and, great guys, super motivators. And one of the things that they said was, it used to be that people thought that when you focused on something, it was just the simple law of attraction. Now we know that there's science behind it. And I said, Jarek, explain that to me. I really need to know more about that. They said, when you see something and you focus on it, it starts this electronic thought process going back and forth through these little electron things in your brain. And the more you focus on it, the faster they fire, the more they become almost one stream of conscious thought. Almost to the point where if you focus on it enough, your mind is going to think you already own that thing. Not physically, but figuratively. And then what your mind does is it puts your body into these almost involuntary subconscious awareness changes and effort changes and opportunity changes to upgrade your life, your system, your job, your pay, in order to bring that thing into your life. If your brain is that powerful and it's free and it requires no training, why wouldn't you use that? Why wouldn't you go tomorrow and say, I'm going to start focusing on something because my brain will get it done for me? Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, it makes me crazy that people go, well, I'm just going to wait for, life to happen. Well, okay, go ahead. That's fine. I would much rather know well in advance what it should look like and then allow myself to be dragged there by this powerful computer you have sitting on top of your shoulders.
Yes, absolutely. And then there's so many people who honestly can do the opposite. They can make themselves feel traumatized, so scared of the world. So it's just, you decide whatever you want to do. But we're just offering you an opportunity to look at the world in a different light. So, absolutely. Ken, I think this has been awesome. Is there any last words, and where can people find you, Ken?
Well, you can go to Ken Rusk, Ken Rusk, RUSK.com. You'll find the book there. You'll find the course there. I hope you take advantage of it. Like I said, you'll be helping the troops if you do as well. And just start today. One of the things you said earlier that's so important is congratulate yourself for, number one, listening to his podcast, okay? Because that means you want to better yourself. And congratulate yourself for taking the very first step towards any goal that you have out there. And you can read about it in my book, or Jordan can help you as well. Because you're already thinking like only 1% of the population. And I think that's going to make a very special person out of you in the end.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for reaching the end of the podcast. For that, we'll give you a complimentary coaching session in the link below with Edwards Consulting. Hope to see you there, and have a great day and keep clocking in.